All right, Phil, let's go on and move on into the Pro Bowl selections. These came out a week or so ago. Pretty standard stuff here in the Pro Bowl. A little bit different, though, this year. We are having a virtual Pro Bowl, so there's not going to be any alternates, anything like that. It's virtual this year, of course, because of COVID. It's a third fans, a third players, and a third coaches in the voting, so you got a nice mix in here. AFC is led by some of the usual suspects, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson are your quarterbacks. There's some guys up on the list. We'll talk about them. And on the NFC, your quarterbacks leading the way are Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and Kyler Murray. So, Drake, go ahead and start with you. What do you think of the Pro Bowl rosters, and do you have any snubs?
Right off the top, no snubs. Only because like I like the Pro Bowl setup. I'm more for the All Pro setup because I think the All Pro they do a little deeper dive and it's not 1/3 fans and 1/3 like you know what I'm saying. So I kind of I keep the validity with the All Pro teams. But to answer your question, I don't have no snubs right off the bat. I'm looking. This seemed pretty, cut and dry, copy and paste. Most of the guys that we've seen for years and years. I see Josh Allen up in that thing doing what he do. Deshaun Watson, even though he lost all his weapons, he's glad to see him back in the mix. Really don't got a problem with the running backs. I think the running backs is good. I'm glad they put some respect on Nick Chubb, even though he was hurt for a good portion of the season.
And
But
splitting carries.
my God, I mean, when he do play, I mean, well, not Sunday, but take away the Sunday performance. But when you do play, you know what I'm saying? He's doing his thing. So I was glad to see that. No problem with the tight ends, Travis Kelce, Darren Waller. And listen, I've been soapbox. I done said this. Look, that AFC West, best division hands down when you talk about the tight end position. That division is stacked with good tight end talent. Richard Richard, whatever. Like, I never understand this whole fullback thing because every team don't play with a fullback. So it's what is it like baseball with the designated hitter thing? Like I don't know.
Yeah, kind of.
It's I don't know like because every team don't play with one. So that like how you just okay these 8 teams play with a fullback, grab one of them. All right, whatever. So then offensive tackles, no problem. I really don't. To just keep it short and sweet. I'm not upset with the Pro Bowl roster. Like I said, I'm more willing. I want to wait and see what the All Pro roster say and see if it's closer to this or just in the left field. And then I'm not mad at it. And like I said, right now I don't really have a snub as far as the AFC go.
I think for the most part, there's a lot of good stuff in these rosters. I think all the quarterbacks are about right. I think there's probably some arguments you can make maybe over Kyler Murray considering the way he seems to have tailed off in the second half of the year. But I think there's a lot of really good selections at the quarterback position. I think at running back, the one I would swap in, and this is probably going to be to Cody's delight, I would probably put James Robinson in over Josh Jacobs. I think James Robinson has had just an outstanding season. Of course, it's going to be under the radar, and he probably didn't get many fan votes because I don't think the Jaguars, for whatever reason, have many fans. So obviously, he's going to be fighting an uphill battle in that regard. But of course, the wide receivers is a lot of things to like with Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill. I think those guys this year are no brainer. AJ Brown's been tremendous as well this year. In the NFC, Devontae Adams has been nothing short of spectacular. DK Metcalf as well. Justin Jefferson, yeah, he's a rookie, but he's been maybe perhaps the best player in the draft, period, with the way he's performed. I think the tight ends in the NFC, they're a little curious. I think it does help guys like TJ Hawkinson and Evan Ingram when the mainstays in the NFC, George Kittle and Zach Ertz, they've been hurt. In the case of Kittle and then Zach Ertz, he's been a little in and out the lineup, and we know how much of a disaster the Eagles have been. I think Jason Kelsey kind of surprises me a little bit, just on the same line how bad the Eagles have been, and it seems like his performance has been a little down this year. I think a defensive end in the NFC. Of course, I got a lot of love for Cameron Jordan, but when you actually delve into some of the numbers and you look at a guy like Trey Hendrickson, who I mentioned earlier, Trey Hendrickson, he's doubled up Cam Jordan in sacks, 12.5 to 6.5, and sacks can sometimes be a little bit misleading. But his pressure percentage is doubled up as well. His pressure percentage is at 16%. Jordan's at 8%. So some of those advanced metrics kind of help Trey Hendrickson. But of course, Henderson, he's not a household name. Cameron Jordan is. So those are, that's some of the things you have to take into account. I, I like the fact that Quandre Diggs is getting some love. I think Jamal Adams is kind of the no-brainer pick at safety, but I like that the Seahawks got doubled up at safety. I think that's probably about right. I think one of the underrated moves from last season is when Pete Carroll brought Quandre Diggs over from Detroit, and those two guys definitely have really maybe the best back end in football. The safeties in the AFC, I think they're just as impressive. Minka Fitzpatrick, speaking of in-season acquisitions, he's still having a profound impact on the Steelers defense. Good for Justin Simmons out in Denver for getting some love. He's been outstanding. He's played himself into a huge contract off the franchise tag this year. And of course, we know what the Honey Badger means to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think all in all, like I said, at tight end, I think maybe a guy like Robert Tonyan in Green Bay, that's a guy who could deserve some love. He's got 10 touchdown receptions. Evan Ingram has 1. But for the most part, I think these rosters are about right.
Yeah, I had 1 or 2 snubs, but I mean, for the most part, I think the rosters are solid. And this is kind of the same thing with the James Robinson argument you just made is guys on teams like the Jets and the Jags, like it's hard to really show them a lot of love. But Calais Campbell being on here, mostly probably got on because of the fan vote and the name, and I love the guy to death. Obviously, I'm not trying to pick on him, but Quentin Williams to the Jets, he had a year, man. He really had a year. He had 53 tackles, 10 tackles for a loss, 7 sacks, 3 pass defense, 2 forced fumbles, and 14 quarterback hits at the defensive tackle position. And the Jets as a whole, that front of the Jets is actually pretty good. It's something that a lot of people, probably overlook with the team as bad as they've been up until the last 2 weeks. But, guys like him, and again, the Pro Bowl, guys like him don't maybe stand out as much as Calais does with the personality. So that's kind of what it is. You could also argue, I think Brian Burns had a little bit better year than Chase Young did. In fact, all of the NFC, defensive ends, that's probably the weakest of all these positions. You could probably slide other guys in for the most part. There's probably a couple other guys that could deserve it. But one of the ones that's the most egregious to me is Evan Ingram getting in. Evan Ingram caught 54 passes on 95 targets. Okay, Robert Tonyan of the Packers, 49 catches, so 5 less catches on 55 targets, which is 40 less targets. So basically the same production and half the targets. He had slightly less yards than Ingram, and he had 10 touchdowns to Ingram's 1. So I don't, must have been just, hey, I play in New York, look at me, because I don't know how else he got in the Pro Bowl. But it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, again, I think we see that, you have a difference in the fans and the coaches and players, who all think is good. So like Drink said, it's the all-pro rosters will likely shake a lot of these things out and it'll be better. But overall, I think it's good. And I kind of almost like this a little more, the virtual format, because we don't get all these replacements and we don't have these 6th and 7th removed guys getting into the Pro Bowl. We just have the roster. That's the roster. We're moving on. So I hope maybe they keep this format in the future, but we'll see how that plays out.